Mayor Lightfoot is approaching her 2-year anniversary in office, and she says she's going to be giving one-on-one interviews about this with the media, but only to journalists of color.
Our political...
Now, y'all saw the video I did yesterday with the black leader over there in Rhode Island. Providence, Rhode Island. Yes, Providence, Rhode Island. It's turning into a crap hole, just like every other city. And you know one thing I'm starting to notice? There's a lot of goddamn black leaders in these, especially in the major cities in America, man. But this one, she's only doing interviews with black and brown reporters. Woman, you are married to a 7-foot-tall white woman. You are literally married to George Murison in a dress. And you gonna come out here and talk about you only giving interviews to black and brown reporters? Now, wonder these sisters always blame everything on mental illness. It ain't never that somebody just decided to shoot up the party. Is we need mental health aides in the community. Because all of them crazy, man. You only gonna give interviews to black and brown reporters, but you gonna go home and have your great afro in a leg lock all night in between cousin It's twin sister's legs. And you don't see no hypocrisy in that. That's just normal. And that's a whole lot of white women. She old and she tall. And it's women like this, Lori Lightfoot, that are in charge of Atlanta, in charge of D.C., San Francisco, Charlotte, and the list goes on and on and on and on. St. Louis. It goes on and on and on. We in trouble, black folk, man.
Mayor Lightfoot is approaching her 2-year anniversary in office, and she says she's going to be giving one-on-one interviews about this with the media, but only to journalists of color.
Our political editor, Mike Flannery, joins us in studio with more on this story and some of the controversy that it is sparking. Mike.
Well, Anthony and Sally, it's important to note that there are far fewer reporters of any color covering City Hall these days. I remember when 12 to 15 reporters physically went to the hall just about every day to check in. Now, there is just really a small handful who do this. One is a black man, one an Hispanic man. The mayor complains none are women of color.
Why you not dating a woman of color? Why you ain't married to a woman of color? All these lesbian sisters out here. Why you ain't go find somebody in the WNBA? Like it's a shortage of gay black women. Well, you know, in Chicago, she couldn't find a gay black woman in Chicago. God, dog.
The mayor complains none are women of color. In a written statement, Lightfoot said there are 0 women of color assigned to the City Hall beat. 0. I find this unacceptable and hope you do too. That was an old picture of me with Harold Washington. It's a resumption of a conversation I've been part of for more than 40 years. Harold Washington was, of course, Chicago's first African-American mayor. He often complained that white reporters, you see me there with Gus Savage, another African-American politician from the South Side who complained about white reporters not understanding some of the metaphors, some of the language that Washington and Gus Savage used. Barack Obama's approach, on the other hand, was very different.
That ain't really the Barack Obama, man. That gotta be like one of them wax museum things of Barack Obama. What the hell? Maybe the camera flashed at the wrong time. I'm sure Barack Obama seeing that picture, man. He cringing, man. The fuck?
African-American politician from the South Side who complained about white reporters not understanding some of the metaphors, some of the language that Washington and Gus Savage used. Barack Obama's approach, on the other hand, was very different. Obama is not a native Chicagoan and arrived here as an adult, just like Lightfoot. Unlike Harold Washington a generation earlier, Obama and Lightfoot attended majority white schools and escaped the worst of the segregated world that the late Mayor Harold Washington grew up in. Lightfoot declares that white reporters at City Hall should now be accompanied by a black or brown colleague. For the record, I was hired at Channel 2 back in 1980. I had been a Sun-Times City Hall reporter. I was hired to replace an African-American political reporter, Emery King, who had been hired by a national TV network to go cover Capitol Hill and the White House in Washington, D.C. Guys?
All right, well, yeah, this has obviously sparked a conversation, I'm sure not only in our newsroom, but newsrooms throughout the city. So we want to dive into this a little bit further. Mike, what kind of reaction is this getting from the City Hall, the current scaled down, as you mentioned, City Hall press corps?
Well, you know, I've touched base with several people, white and Hispanic and African American. You know, I know just about everybody in this in that part of that side of the business, and you know, people are acknowledging that this is a conversation, an important conversation. It's complicated and complex.
This is where America is at. He can't even come out and just say it's racist. Now, we supposed to trust this guy when he's talking about police brutality, systemic racism, institutional this, and the reason niggas ain't got no money is because of racism. The reason our community's in shambles because of white people. We supposed to believe him when he on TV talking this every day. After you're seeing him blatantly fudge the truth on this topic. It's clear that this guy's full of it. It's clear that he's full of crap. That he'll say whatever they allow him to say. He won't say what he feel like Don Lemon. He can't get on TV and say Anderson Cooper about Donald Trump and Don Lemon talking about Donald Trump. When them liberals talking about a Republican, they can say whatever the hell they want. But when they talking about another liberal, they can't even say that. Yo, that's mad racist, son.
So we want to dive into this a little bit further. Mike, what kind of reaction is this getting from the City Hall, the current scaled down, as you mentioned, City Hall press corps?
Well, you know, I've touched base with several people, white and Hispanic and African American. You know, I know just about everybody in this in that part of that side of the business, and you know, people are acknowledging that this is a conversation, an important conversation. It's complicated and complex. You know, there are even some journalists of color have suggested to me that they don't necessarily like the way that Lightfoot phrased this. Harold Washington, for example, used to give exclusives to the Chicago Defender. There were 2, 3, 4 black outlets, maybe 5 if you count the radios. He'd give them exclusive interviews, but wouldn't use this exclusionary language that Lightfoot is using. Maybe not the smartest way to go.
Mike, like you mentioned, it's an important conversation to be having. All newsrooms should be talking about the diversity of their staff because it does affect the stories you cover, how they are covered. That said, is the problem with the mayor leading that conversation? What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, there's a big problem. She's very self-interested, and she's not shy about that. I respect Tia Ewing's opinion. I'd love to get your take on this, Tia.
Well, this is really what I think when it comes to the mayor having the conversation. In my opinion, who better than to spark the conversation than someone as largely seen as the mayor of Chicago? I've had people in the city of Chicago, like activists, say the very same thing, that oftentimes when there's a murder or something like that, or a rally in Chicago, the African-American reporter shows up. Where's the white reporter? All questions that I think...
Now they mad that when it's a murder, which is twice a day in Chicago, every day, 750 murders last year. They on pace to beat that this year. All the suspects black. Basically 90% of the suspects black. 90% of the victims black. In a city where they're only 29% of the population. 90% of the murder victims. 90% of the murder victims, and they mad that they sent a black reporter to the crime scene in the fucking middle of the fucking hood, in the trenches. Niggas have been known to beat up, harass, be rude to, be threatening, and be menacing to reporters. But every time we do a news story in Chicago, ain't that girl Tara Molina? She's always there. From CBS 2 in Chicago. I don't know what they talking about. This another version of niggas just making up the reality. Y'all don't never. Y'all always. It's not true. And if it is true, what the hell are you complaining about? Murder in Chicago is a black thing. So why not send a black reporter over there? If that was the case, if y'all wasn't just lying about that being the case. If y'all was really telling the truth and that was really what happened, murder in Chicago is a black thing. Why not send a black reporter?
I've had people in the city of Chicago, like activists, say the very same thing, that oftentimes when there's a murder or something like that, or a rally in Chicago, the African-American reporter shows up. Where's the white reporter? All questions that I think are worthy to be heard. What I think the mayor is doing here that is different is she is a voice. She is an icon in some respects here in the city. So if she doesn't start that conversation, who else would be the person to have it? You may not like how she did it, but I think it was definitely worthy to be brought up. And it's not just what you see on air. You also got to remember newsrooms have people behind the scenes, and all of those faces matter. All of those colors matter. All of those ideas matter. And we
listen, you know what matters? Getting the paper on time. All the articles being ready when they're ready to go to print. The shit being edited right. The spelling being right. All that stuff. They don't want to talk about that. Like I did a video. It's a grade cheating scandal in every black school district, including Chicago. The kids scored abysmally low in reading, math, and science. Abysmally low. The black community may not be producing enough candidates to make it to where 13% of the population could make the newsrooms and all these damn networks 50% black. Now, Asians could with their small population. Jews could with their small population. They're able to be overrepresented in different industries and different places in the media. Jews are overrepresented because they're qualified for these things en masse. How you going to produce a bunch of video editors, videographers, editors, writers, everything that go into making a paper run, everything that go into making the news station run? How you going to get the newsroom to be half black from 13% of the population, and then that 13% of the population is last in everything academically, which is where these kids earn the scholarships to go to schools and get the certificates from the school, the diplomas, whatever, graduate, the degrees to go on to be these jobs. You have some. I think that you have, every time I go, we do the news. Nobody does the news more than us here. It's a lot of sisters and a lot of brothers doing the damn news. I don't see this shortage, and I'll be looking for it going forward to see that we see a shortage, because I cover the news all over the country. I don't see this shortage, but I just don't see how it shouldn't be a shortage. Where are the candidates? You just want to give people jobs? You want affirmative action, just give jobs away? Then the quality of the product gonna go south.
What I think the mayor is doing here that is different is she is a voice. She is a icon in some respects here in the city. So if she doesn't start that conversation, who else would be the person to have it? You may not like how she did it, but I think it was definitely worthy to be brought up. And it's not just what you see on air. You also got to remember newsrooms have people behind the scenes, and all of those faces matter. All of those colors matter. All of those ideas matter. And we have to stop being afraid to talk about real issues. This is a real issue that impacts how people are covered in the city of Chicago, in the suburbs, and I think we have to make sure that those people are reflected, not just right here what you see on TV, but behind the scenes as well. And I applaud the mayor for being courageous enough to even talk about it, to bring forth this conversation. Was it the best way to do it, to exclude people? Hey, I'm not here to say, but I think the conversation needs to be had, and right now is a great time to have it.
Yeah, let's continue it. Well said, Tia.
Yes, for sure. Tia, thank you for that. Mike, thank you for your time as well.